Hello and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3 Iron, and today we have just gotten some news with a Legion League FAQ post posted by the lady herself, Chris. You thought I was going to say Bex, but no. Chris himself has posted, and so we're going to quickly go through this because it's not a terribly long list of FAQ questions and answers. So we're going to go through each one because each one is important and gives us some more details about the upcoming Legion League that is only a few days away. So here we go. It's been almost a week since we announced Path of Exile Legion. We've enjoyed reading all the hype and speculation and noticed a few common questions popping up. We've decided to collect some of these and answer them in one handy place. Whew. So here we go. A whole bunch of questions for us. If you guys have questions still coming after this, make sure to feel free to leave a comment down below because you never know. PoE is always watching. Grinding Gear Games is always watching. And of course, a bunch of these are based off of questions that have come up off of Reddit and YouTube, as well as Twitch and the forums as well. So always feel free to drop questions down below because you never know who's going to be reading them. And, you know, I'll read them. And I always enjoy interacting with them as well as other members of the G3 community. So here we go. When can we expect the changes to the map tab that specifically helped standard users? Standard getting a highlight from the very beginning. We expect to deploy these changes before 3.7 launches. We don't have a specific date lined up yet, but we will let you know when we do. Do the new Legion jewels change the passive skills within the radius of the jewel on the passive skill tree or just the keystones? We're careful to tease these in a way that helps you understand their potential over time, but I can confirm that at least one of the Legion jewels does change every single passive within the radius. Okay, Chris, you're hurting my head here. Okay, so he said, I can confirm that at least one. Okay, so we know that there's one that will not only change the keystone that's near the jewel socket itself when socketed on your passive tree, but also the minor nodes that are around it. So there's at least one that changes every single passive within the radius. That means there could be more. It means that we might not get an answer to this. Sometimes GGG likes for us to go out and discover things in the league as well. They don't like to spoil everything. So we know there's at least one, and that has not been revealed yet. When can we see changes to some of the melee-based ascendancy classes? Also, we've seen a lot of non-melee reveals so far. Will we see some melee ones soon? Hopefully soon. Hey, where's the TM? Where's the trademark for soon? Soon, just putting the finishing touches on them, and then we will reveal. Okay, so that means they're still working on it. That literally means that when this post was made live by Chris, they were still actually making changes and last-minute details, whether that's numbers, whether that's minor bug fixes, regardless of whatever it is that they're working on. It means that they're still working on it, which is really, really cool to look at and to see, hey, one of the bigger aspects of the league, a melee rework, is still being worked on, which a lot of folks have critiqued GGG. Oh, you guys didn't put enough work into, I don't know, let's say synthesis. A lot of people were really upset about synthesis. And a lot of people have really been critiquing GGG over the last year or so that they haven't done enough internal testing and enough internal work before releasing the product to the public, where on the launch weekend, a lot of the times there's a lot of bugs. And so I think that's cool that they're saying, hey, look, there's stuff that we want to tease, but we're still working on it. I think that's cool and transparent. Okay. Are you making any balance change to two-handed weapons? There are buffs to added damage on weapons, improvements to many two-handed weapon passives, and some new mechanics are available that benefit more from higher hit damage relative to the slower base attack time of two-handed weapons. All right. So if you were looking for two-handed weapons and were planning a build around them, yes, there are going to be changes. And specifically when he says that there are going to be added damage on weapons, notice here that he says there are buffs to added damage on weapons, but then here he says improvements to many two-handed weapon passives. So I'm not sure if that's Chris not being detailed enough in that he means, hey, there are buffs specifically to two-handed weapon rolls, or if he's saying, hey, this is a buff to added damage on weapons overall, one-handers and two-handers, and then there's specifically some improvements to many two-handed passives and some new techniques that are going to help with slower hitting, higher damage weapons. I don't know. If you're looking to play a build that takes advantage of two-handers, let me know how that makes you feel. That's not necessarily the greatest thing that you're going to want to hear. I don't know. We'll see. Ultimately, we'll see what it looks like, right? But at least there's some changes. At the very least, there's some changes to the passive tree, and sometimes it's just a passive or two that's really needed in terms of even numerical changes. Like sometimes a change from a 2 to a 4 can make a lot of difference if that happens across the tree, and then all of a sudden your damage is essentially doubled from the tree, depending on whatever weapon it is or skill you're using. And in this case, two-handed weapons, that would be a big buff. So we'll see what those changed passives actually look like. Will the change to melee apply to monsters? Generally, yes. This prompted a lot of rebalance of early campaign areas. Monsters and bosses now signal their damage better with slower windups and do more damage when they hit. Are you making any changes to armor? Okay, this was a good question that came with the latest keynote that came out. Well, I guess it's not the latest now, but anyway, it was the latest keynote that came out that showed us a bunch of more armor. Twice as much armor after 80% of mana, 80% of your maximum mana gets converted to armor, and it's twice as much or something. It was really, really strong. So here's the answer. Are there changes to armor? Not the core mechanic or base types, but there are some improvements to armor skills on the passive tree, and Molten Shell now directly rewards armor investment. In addition, new melee mobility improvements are a massive benefit to your defenses. Okay, so armor's still going to have diminishing returns. So if you just wanted to go with a meme armor stacking build, chances are you're going to use it for Molten Shell and be a self-immolating explosive shield turtle is probably what you'll be. Will Winter Orb survive 3.7? Here's a popular question. It has received balance adjustments to bring its power slightly closer to other skills. The main change being that it fires less frequently when not channeling, though there are other adjustments too. Okay, well, those of us that were wondering whether or not Winter Orb was going to get the arc treatment, where it was just going to be the accepted normal thing for a long time, yeah, no. All of you that commented on my Winter Orb rant, hey, I'm running Winter Orb during flashback because that's going to be the only chance that we've got because it's getting nerfed. Yep. Bye, Winter Orb. It was nice playing you. Can items be traded while they have incubators on them? Yes, incubators can be traded in all cases. Will a divination card incubator drop a divination card based on what area you're in at the time? When a divination card incubator spawns the card, it does so ignoring whatever map you're in at the time. You get a random card. Okay, so that's kind of a bummer. So basically, the incubator itself is like it's a void or a jack-in-the-box. Like, it's just, hey, here's a random card. Like, that's. I don't know. That kind of bums me out. I mean, I guess, okay, so on the one hand, it's good, right? Because if you could target farm, incubate stuff, then everybody would feel like they're forced into running specific layouts for their incubation. And there would just be this massive meta around certain layouts that have certain div card drops. That being said, we already have that for Magic Find. So I guess this is GGG saying, look, we're okay with where things are at now with Magic Find and div card farming, but we don't want to encourage that to go any further into pressing players down maybe what they feel like is the most efficient route, which would maybe kill player retention and kill the sense of fun that you have over the long haul of the game, because you would feel like if you're not farming those particular zones with your incubator, that you're essentially wasting time. So I can kind of already hear that. I hear Chris whispering in my ears, something about player retention. I feel like is probably the reason for that. Will incubation items stack? Well, we have to micromanage incubators. Incubators are valuable rewards from Legion content. While it's currently possible to spend your currency trading for a lot of them, if that's what you desire, the average player won't be overflowing with incubators. Okay, so incubators are relatively rare, probably like scarabs. The number of kills required to trigger one generally takes a handful of maps, more for the valuable ones. So we don't expect micromanagement to be a problem. They do not stack on your items. Okay. Interesting. Which, speaking of which, are they going to stack? Just period? Like, can we stack incubators in our stash? That's a question. Will incubation items work with worms and other free monsters? No, they only work with kills that grant experience and items. Okay? Makes sense. Are incubator kills shared with your nearby party members? Yes. If you would gain experience from a kill, your incubator gets credit. Okay, cool. Will there be an indication of how much time is left on the monolith? We plan to add a timer to make it clear how long is left before the effect ends. Hey! Okay. Anybody that says GGG doesn't listen to their community and they don't respond to people, and people on Reddit and Twitch and YouTube and the PoE community is so toxic, and they just scream and whine about things that aren't necessary. Hey, look, here's actually an example of a really healthy relationship inside gaming. A bunch of people watched the Legion trailer, started dissecting things, watched and listened to different outlets, different media outlets, showing off the Legion mechanic, and a bunch of different people have said, hey, this looks fun, and we think maybe there's some ways to improve it before it gets released. Is there any chance that we can do that? And Chris just said, yes, there's going to be an indicator. We're going to add it. That's really cool. Whether or not that gets added before the league launches or not, we don't have a date on that. Notice he just says, we plan to add a timer. So let's hope that comes out before league launch. Otherwise, it's going to sound like a broken record on league launch. People are going to want that effect. Will the monolith effect always last for the same duration? It lasts for a bit longer in early game and slightly shorter in the late game. Okay, that makes sense. Kind of like how synthesis, how the darkness, how the darkness of synthesis kind of trickles up, and how it's a little bit slower early game and it's faster late game. Is it possible to free all of the Legion monsters before the effect wears off? It's possible for a sufficiently powerful build running into a set of monsters that are all spawned close together, but we don't think it'll be likely, with a caveat, early in the league. Note that you do actually have to deal enough damage to the monsters to break them out, so it's quite tricky to hit that many monsters that hard in that short of a time. Vol Stormcall says hello. Trappers with Pierce say hello. But anyway, we'll see what that's like. The asterisk and the short side note was, despite this, I somehow suspect I'll be watching Twitch with a concerned look on my face as someone managed to do exactly this, as it's not unusual for the community to exceed our expectations. Hey, do you guys remember Delve? All right, first we're going to make it for 1,500? Chris is like, no, double it to 3K. Then somebody got to 3K. They're like, okay, let's make it up to 6K. Then somebody got to 6K, and groups got to 6K. And now individuals are getting to 6K. Individuals are getting to 10K depth in Delve, when the developers of the game never thought anybody would get past 1,500 depth. So, yes, this is part of the reason why I'm excited about this game, why I love this game so much, is because people like you and like me can go absolutely bonkers with the tools that are provided for us by GGG, and we can break expectations all over the place. It's really, really cool that we do that. All right, how do you break out Legion monsters with minions, totems, storms, storm brands, or traps? These skills all work like normal and target the frozen enemies until you have dealt enough damage to them and they are broken out, at which point the skills target the next monster like they normally would. All right, so all of us that were wondering, but Legion League is going to be like a terrible league because none of us are going to be able to play the builds that we normally play. Okay, scratch that, right? Totems are going to be fine, minions are going to be fine, brands are going to be fine, traps are going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine, folks. You got to do damage to essentially kill this stuff, and then you got to kill it again to actually reap the rewards of it. Essentially, Chris has said that. It's not just tick it twice. It's you have to do enough damage to actually wake these soldiers up, essentially. Okay, does breaking an enemy out trigger on-kill effects? Generally speaking, we have tried where possible to have these on-kill effects trigger. These have had to be added on a case-by-case basis, so we have hit the most popular ones first. There are several technicalities like corpse destruction effects not occurring because no corpse is destroyed. If we miss some cases, then we'll look into the practicality of solving those post-release. Okay, so I'm channeling my inner whatever, my inner swarmy, Dalai Lama, whatever. I'm channeling it, okay? What that sentence means is there's going to be bugs on release weekend interacting with skills and on-kill effects specifically. Yes, there will be other bugs as well, but this is an anticipated bug that Chris and the team have said, if we've missed some cases, then we'll look into the practicality of solving those post-release. So they're not going back and saying, hey, we're going to comb through every single stat and then every single status effect and every single monster type that can be generated by the monolith. They're not doing that. So what he's saying is, look, if you see a bug post-release, bug report it, right? Because we'll go back and we'll take a look at it. But we're not going to spend any more manpower at this point in time to go back and mess with on-kill effects. So expect bugs. There's always bugs whenever you release anything for millions of people to play. There's always going to be bugs. But nonetheless, there are specifically going to be bugs with on-kill effects. So those of you that were planning on a build that relied on on-kill effects, I'm not sure how many people even play on-kill effect builds, but just be aware of that. If that's your league starter, be aware there probably will be bugs in interacting with the monolith. All right, patch notes when? I just asked her. They'll be posted in the evening of Tuesday, June 4th, U.S. time, which is about a week away. So everybody get excited because we'll, of course, go through those patch notes. We'll compare the word count on them versus previous patches like Synthesis and Betrayal and Delve League. So we'll go back and we'll take a look at how big those patch notes are and how this game has grown over the years. All right. Lastly, Chris says, if you missed it, we strongly recommend checking out the latest Bay Class episode where Jonathan, our technical director, explains the comprehensive changes to the melee combat system. The podcast is an hour long, but if you're short on time, there's a highlights video here. We also recommend checking out Ziggy's Legion coverage here. We're looking forward to sharing more about Legion in the next week and a half. All right, everybody. So there we go. So there's the Legion FAQ. They've now done one of these. I would expect another one. I shouldn't say expect. I would anticipate that another one of these will come out probably between patch notes and actual launch, between Tuesday to Friday. Probably is when we will actually see another something similar to this, whether that's a development manifesto about Melee, whether that's a development manifesto about core mechanics that go League, addressing Synthesis versus addressing Monolith, because that's always a question that comes out. Like within 24 hours, the very first weekend of a league, people are already asking, is this thing gonna go core? What do you think? I feel like there's a segment of the population that's always asking that question. And there are good reasons to ask that question, right? Economically, you want to know if something's going core, if you want to invest in it long term, or if you need to invest in it short term, because it's not going to go core, and so it's going to be a legacy thing. So there's lots of good questions about that, but I would expect there to be another style of FAQ or long-form written announcement that isn't just teasers about content, probably in between Tuesday to Friday of next week. That would be my expectation. Feel free to leave a comment down below with anything that excited you, that confused you, or that maybe has just got you curious about more stuff that's happening with Legion. And as always, stick around for more Path of Exile content, and I hope that Legion League is indeed the league where a Mirror of Calandra drops for you.
Nice patrons, yes, good patrons. They're so kind and supportive.
I can't believe you watched that thing. That was a good job. You did it. You got through the whole video. Yay.